The adventuring company returned to their chambers, while Lord Marshal Harrick Voln concluded his private conversation with Lady Cleora. In the quiet of their room, they rehearsed their cover story and refined the details they would share. Meanwhile, Jethro positioned himself carefully and attempted to overhear the remainder of the exchange between the Lord Marshal and the Dame. He caught the following.
"I ask you one final time. Will you go to him and convince him to end this foolishness before it gets out of hand and men begin to die?"
I have been here in the palace for nearly 2 fortnights, begging you to go to the island and save my husband. Now my son is missing because of your inaction, and my husband has been traded from one captivity to another. My position has not changed. Let him go.
Your husband is not imprisoned. He's being questioned and will be released when he answers our questions. Your father-in-law is interfering with an ongoing investigation.
You are holding my husband as leverage to control his father. Let him go to the Baron and try to reason with him. I will not be your pawn. You have my answer.
Yes, it seems I do. Very well. Perhaps your guests will prove more helpful. Good night, Lady Cleora.
Moments later, firm footsteps approached, and the Lord Marshal joined the company. Harrick informed them he had 2 purposes that evening, to request a favour and to ask them questions regarding Skyhorn Island in support of his investigation. He began with the favour. Would they return to Skyhorn Island? The company was visibly taken aback until Harrick explained the increasingly volatile situation. Baron Lucius Skyhorn, Lucian's father, had learned of his son's departure from the island and subsequent questioning by the Crown. In response, the Baron had mobilized his fleet and was preparing to set foot on Skyhorn Island by force. With the royal investigation still underway, House Skyhorn's presence on the island could not be permitted. Harrick explained that Lucian had spoken highly of the company and expressed hope that they might persuade the Baron to withdraw peacefully until the investigation concluded. The company hesitated. There were too many unknowns, too many shifting loyalties. They did not know whom they could trust, nor whether they could prevent violence if matters escalated. When Guthrie asked what could be offered to the Baron to get him to withdraw, Harrick replied that if absolutely necessary, the Crown would pay 200 copper pennies per day to rent the island during the investigation. If the Baron could be convinced without invoking payment, then 200 copper pennies would instead go to the company. In any case, success would earn them his commendation before the king. He allowed the offer to linger before turning to his interrogation. He requested their full names. They complied, and he made careful mental notes of each. Harrick stated he already understood the broad strokes. Shadow Friends had attacked the island, seized ships and captives, and the company, alongside Sir Lucian, had liberated them and ended the threat. He did not want repetition. He wanted details. Why Skyhorn Island? What made it significant? How had the Shadow Friends captured ships and overrun the island so effectively? The company quickly realized that Lucian had not revealed the secret of the Nanwo Rovaya. Without speaking, they agreed they would not be the ones to do so. They offered plausible theories: strategic vulnerability, isolation, opportunistic assault. But nothing rooted in the truth they knew, nor anything in particular that they witnessed. Harrick's irritation was subtle but present. Still, he gave no indication that he suspected deliberate concealment. At last, he concluded the meeting. If they chose to accept his offer, they were to inform the guards outside. They would be escorted to the harbour and ferried to parley with the Baron. With that, the Lord Marshal departed. The company then sought out Lady Cleora and gathered insight into Baron Lucius's temperament and history. They learned he despised small motives like money and would be insulted by any suggestion of ambition. Since his wife's death, He had grown deeply concerned with preserving his legacy, and he doubted Lucian's fitness to rule. Armed with this knowledge, the company accepted Harrick's offer and set sail once more for Skyhorn Island. The island was encircled by ships bearing the red colours of the royal house of Altdorf, House Windsor, and the blue banners of House Skyhorn. Negotiations were hosted aboard a vessel under the watch of the city guard harbour captain. The company carefully summarized the events on the island, deliberately omitting any mention of the Nanwo Rovaya. Several of them noticed the Baron's jaw tighten in the same manner as his son's, whenever that subject was intentionally avoided. Perhaps it was the only way he could say, "Thank you." They appealed first to his sense of justice, presenting Jethro's scars from the sea hag and the purified weapons once wielded by the scion of the deep and the sea hag. It moved him, but not enough. They appealed next to legacy, showing him the mariner's coins Lucian had entrusted to them. Still, hesitation lingered. Finally, Guthrie and Callista secured his withdrawal by promising to personally observe the investigation and ensure it proceeded without misconduct. Though the royal captain appeared uneasy at this claim, Guthrie's confidence carried weight. At last, the Baron declared,
"I will withdraw my forces from Skyhorn Island, and I will answer the king's summons if you are present."
With that, he returned to his flagship and ordered the withdrawal. The company went ashore on Skyhorn Island briefly. While Jethro distracted the investigators, Callista carefully concealed the trapdoor leading to the caverns and the Nanwo Rovaya. She believed it would take several days before it might be discovered. Satisfied for now, they returned to Altdorf. Arriving late into the evening, they resolved to visit Sister Femdra and fulfill her earlier request to meet the entire company. 2 city guards escorted them toward the Sisters of the Harvest, but midway through a narrow street in the temple district, a man approached one of the guards. Words were exchanged. Money changed hands. The guards left. Shadow friends emerged from the alleys and surrounded the company. Jethro immediately recognized the markings of the Black Hand, a murderous gang known for keeping some victims alive for depraved ritual purposes. The man who had bribed the guards stepped forward, the swashbuckler, mastiff at his side.
"So,"
he said to Ravenna,
"you truly believed you could mock me, steal my dog, and simply live? Ha ha ha! I'm going to enjoy killing you, brainless wench."
The battle erupted with the thunderous crack of Jethro's hand cannon, dropping a shadow friend, advancing from behind. An eerie lullaby followed, sung by a cloaked figure in a black-horned mask, chanting from a sinister tome. Half the company fell asleep. Half the ambushers did as well, including the swashbuckler. Callista's elven heritage rendered her immune to such magic. Jethro's stubborn spirit barely held back the enchantment. 2 were-rats lunged at the sleeping Ravenna, shouting in Undercommon that she was a werewolf and must die before she shifted. Their attacks awakened her, and with her ancient axe, volcanic, she nearly cleaved one of them in 2. They panicked, screaming that she wielded a bane weapon capable of harming them, and fled. Guthrie weaved through the fray toward the masked cantor. The swashbuckler maneuvered to duel Ravenna. Callista unleashed radiant dawnlight through her shield, searing enemies in brilliant flashes. Ravenna nearly shifted. But a man in black garments trimmed with gold intervened, aiding Guthrie in bringing down the masked cantor. Jethro then found himself face to face with Erzfan, the shadow friend that was paid to collect maiden heads from Severn, who seemed more interested in bargaining for Jethro's firearm than surviving the battle. Only after Jethro demanded assistance did Erzfan fire a half-hearted shot at a Black Hand member, who turned on him in fury. The tide shifted. The swashbuckler called for retreat. The masked cantor fell. The ambushers scattered. The swashbuckler and Erzfan escaped with only a handful of survivors. The gold-trimmed stranger introduced himself as Zalando, a monster slayer. He admitted he had suspected Ravenna might match the description of the she-beast he hunted. Yet if she were, he reasoned, the other shadow beasts would not have turned on her, and she likely would have transformed during such a deadly fight. His true purpose in Altdorf, he revealed, was to hunt the shadow entity believed to be causing the blights in the western farmlands. After brief exchanges, Zalando departed. The company searched the dead ambushers, collecting the Dark Cantor's tome, a pouch containing 30 copper pennies, and a note with orders on them to kill Ravenna Rankin, Guthrie Vaus, Callista Stormcaller, and Jethro Mercer. The orders included physical descriptions matching that of the company members and were signed by H.V. The company, now without escort, continued to the Sisters of the Harvest. The rectory doors opened before they could knock. Sister Femdra stood inside, lamplight flickering behind her. She had been waiting, not drowsy, not surprised, waiting. The air felt heavy as they stepped across the threshold. Her eyes passed over each of them calmly, measured, knowing, until they reached Jethro. She froze. The ledger slipped from her fingers and struck the stone floor with a sharp crack that echoed through the quiet hall. Her face drained of color. For a long moment, she simply stared at him with a mixture of emotion, confusion, fear, but more worryingly, recognition. Her lips parted slightly, as if to speak a name she had not dared utter in years. And the silence that followed felt far more dangerous than the ambush they had just survived. What does the adventuring company decide to do now?